All right, so I got a few minutes while the steamer is heating up. You see me working in here. I'm going to be stripping off a lot of the paint you see up there. Old paint, wallpaper, and so forth. This room particularly had about 5 layers of wallpaper, a couple layers of paint in there, and there's a layer of plaster in between some of those layers. So it's been a real challenge. So the whole thing here is to expose the plaster walls so I know where to repair them, right? Because all those layers of wallpaper over the years have created a lot of bubbles and so forth from separating from the walls and whatnot. You can probably see, let me see, oh yeah, right above you see where the plaster's cracked, the ceiling's coming down. I gotta replace the electrical in here. I got a whole one whip. This is the last whip in this house that's on the old knobbed tube. So this whip's coming out. I turned it off a couple of years ago. So I've been out without dining room and kitchen overhead lights for a couple of years because the circuit stopped working and I don't want to cause a fire, so I just turned the circuit off. Today's topic is a derivative of another topic, and I'll see if I can find the video and I'll put it down in the description below. I'm not going to go into all the topics that he discussed on this one. One topic I do want to talk about, though, that I think is pretty comprehensive is maturity. So, what do I mean by that? You know, the maturity comes from not age, but let's say wisdom, right? Without wisdom, you really can't have maturity. And that's something that is lacking today, especially in the younger generations. In a lot of ways, I have no one to blame but myself as a parent. You know, the whole generation of parents did. I'm not sure what the whole thing was, but it started with the boomers. Our parents taught us how to be parents, right? And then we're now teaching our kids how to be parents or be adults, but they're not being taught how to be adults now. So somewhere in my generation, a Gen Xer generation, we failed to figure out how to be an adult. And I think it comes down to just life being very easy in this country. People want to destroy this country because of how bad it is, but it's pretty easy. You should travel the world and see how difficult it can be sometimes. Even plugging your phone into a wall in some countries can be a harrowing life and death situation where you have to actually clip in positive and negative leads. So anyways, on the topic of maturity, what does that mean? I know I'm going to name this video Immaturity, but I don't want to focus on the immature aspects. I want to focus on what maturity is. That is a lot of things that you should be taught. I mean, it's by your parents and from different aspects. I'm a big advocate of fathers in the lives of their kids, and their father's going to teach maturity much better for dealing with the real world. Mothers will teach maturity, real world, or how to deal with things on an emotional level, and fathers teach you maturity on how to deal with the world when you have to meet with other people. One aspect of maturity is the aspect of having the ability to have conversations. As simple as that. Do you feel safe sitting down next to somebody you don't know or having a striking a conversation in a line next to somebody you don't know? If not, why not? A big part of that is that I've seen a lot of the kids being raised in this generation that you should fear each other. You should be scared of each other for whatever reason. There's no real reason to be scared of each other. You're by default assuming that people's intents are bad versus what they probably are is they're no different than you. Now, if your intentions are by default bad, well, then I can see why you might assume other people are going to be the same way, right? But if you're just a default person, a lot of times people are helpful by nature, people are good by nature. Or I'd say they're at the top of the bell curve, right? Completely average. But people fear talking to strangers, having discussions. They're afraid to, on this topic of maturity and discussions, are afraid to have their ideas challenged. And it comes down to fear again, afraid. What happens if somebody disagrees with me? Great. You know, you can't learn more without disagreement. It's just like you can't get stronger without failure. You cannot go through life and never fail and think that you're being a great success. More chances than not, you're just at best very lucky. But if you're really trying hard in your life, you're going to fail. And the same thing with conversations. You're gonna have disagreements. People are not going to agree with each other. But if you're mature, you can listen to what the other person says. Don't wait around stewing in your own anger, waiting for your turn to talk, but actually listen to somebody and hear it from their point of view. And at the same time, you should expect the same from them, right? They should take the time to not just wait to talk. You see this waiting to talk thing with political debates, where they just cut each other off and so forth. They're not actually listening to each other. They don't care. That's why I think a lot of politicians are very immature. And because not a lot of folks sit down and have conversations. They don't talk to other people that they disagree with. If you look at media nowadays, a lot of your mainstream media, they do not invite people on their shows that disagree with them. They're immature, and they can only talk about the things that other people are going to agree with. They're like a whole bunch of chattering birds. Yep. And so that's one level of maturity that you should work on. Another thing with maturity, and this is practice. I can preach to you all day long, but you have to practice these things. And practice means you're going to fail at it. Right? You're going to fail at it a few times probably until you succeed. You're going to figure out why you failed, how you failed. That's another area that you need to have maturity on, is to critically evaluate yourself on how you're doing and why you're doing things the way you're doing them. Are you just sitting around doing the bare minimum and just getting by, scraping by, and never challenging yourself to fail at something, not going out and trying hard? Well, if so, you're not going to learn much. And that's another part of maturity, is education doesn't come from a university, and it doesn't come from a teacher. It comes from experience. And the less experiences you have, the less education you have. So you're going to, by default, think that, well, I have all this experience. But how much experience is that? Is it enough to see the world for what it is, or is it enough for you to just get by, right? You have to go out and try hard and fail at things. You know, did you stop riding your bike the first time you fell off of it? Maybe you did. Maybe you're afraid of thinking that somehow that bike was critical of you, and that you're just terrible at it because the first time you tried to ride it was you fell and you scratched your knee. It's a challenging thing. If you really want to learn to ride a bike, you have to try again. You're going to fall. Professional, riders, they still fall. You can watch the Tour de France. People at the top of their game, and they fall. You can watch your motocross guys. They're professionals. They're on Team Red Bull. They're going to fail. They're going to fall. You know what they do? They get back up and do it again. Professional skaters are another great example of that. Those guys probably fail 90% of the time until they land the one-trick shot, So you have to be mature enough to know that you will never succeed without failure. Another thing about maturity is purpose. Purpose is hard to define, right? By the original purpose for people, I believe, was first and foremost family. Right now, family is being completely destroyed. It's being demonized. So you can be a part of that demonization of family. Say, well, my dad wasn't around. My mom only bad talks my dad, yada, yada, yada. Or vice versa, the other way around. Or you live in a split family where your mother and father get along okay, and you see both of them, and they're still trying to do the best they can. That's closer to being parents, at least, if both parents are directly involved. But when you get brainwashed into thinking one parent is bad by the other, then you're taking out a huge resource out of your life. So, as you're growing up, I want you to think about that. Is the first and foremost, the basic purpose that people had was having family. You know, you have to have that yin and yang, that balance. The mother is more close. She's the feeling. She's the nurturing. The father is the outside protector. He's the provider and protector. And together, it's a full package. You can't do all of it very well by yourself. Even if the parents are working together well, it's hard to do it all by yourself. You can't really do it by yourself because first, and the most lovely, nurturing women out there don't understand life from the perspective of a man, and the most rugged, men with grit don't understand the perspective of women. We understand from our perspective. Where guys are like, well, you're nurturing the shit out of the kids, or you're trying to hurt the kids. Well, no, they gotta learn to bleed a little first. They gotta learn that little bit of pain is okay. So that family aspect is a big thing for your primary purpose. Okay, chances are your young men right now are never going to see family. It's been completely and utterly destroyed in this country. And so you have to find another purpose. You find this purpose from simple things like getting up in the morning, taking a shower, brushing your teeth, make sure your place is clean, right? You find purpose in knowing that you can take care of yourself. You're not reliant on anybody. I'm not talking about emergency situations. I'm talking about in general, somebody else is paying your bills for you, right? You don't have a sugar daddy, sugar mama. You completely manage the responsibilities that you have. You have bills, pay the bills. Vehicle breaks down, fix the vehicle. If you can't afford to have a mechanic do it, hopefully you can afford a $20 book and you can afford a $30 socket set and you can figure out how to fix it. Tools are free to rent. You might have to upfront a cost at AutoZone or O'Reilly's, but they're going to refund it as soon as you fix your vehicles. And if you're out in the parking lot, they usually won't even charge you for it. Take care of your business. Eat healthy, so forth. Take care of you. And once you are able to self-sustain yourself, you'll start finding your purpose. You'll be more motivated to figure out what else is out there. What do I want to do? It doesn't really matter if you want to be a traveling bum that sees the world and takes pictures. Do that, and do it well. And maybe you'll have some, a Time Life, a magazine or something like that pay for your pictures. Maybe you want to just earn a lot of money. Well, earning money is really easy. It takes work though. So you have, it's all you have to do is people will throw money at you if you are just a little handy, just a little bit handy. You want to, make money. Well, you have to figure out how to make money. People don't pay you to sit around. People don't pay you because you say that you want to be paid, generally speaking. Those are called those little thoughts on Instagram, but anyways, you can be one of those if you want, eventually that wears down though, right? And your life, for you girls out there thinking about the life of sex work, and I do consider being one of those Instagram mooches a sex work, because you're not providing anything except pictures of your body. So that goes away. That goes away. Say 95% of the women, when they start to lose their sexual value, they lose it fast. It's like a hole gets cut in the bottom of the pool and it just drains really quickly. And then by then you're going to be looking for purpose. Oh, it's too late for you. Not for family anyways, if that's what you're seeking for family. So get comfortable with your cats. All right. There's a reason why they put the wine aisle next to the cat food aisle in places like Sprouts. Anyways, so on maturity, first we talked about the maturity of dealing with other people. Second, we're talking about the maturity of taking care of yourself, right? All of this comes down, maturity has a big component, and it's overcoming fear. You have to explore why you are afraid of things. Is this learned response? Did somebody teach all this to you? Or chances are that's what it is. We have some innate fears in us, different, I think it's built in the DNA. There's very few people that are really comfortable with like poisonous spiders and snakes and so forth. And people that live here, where I'm at in Kansas, they've never seen the ocean, and they're deathly afraid of sharks. Why is that, right? So there's probably some kind of some fears baked into us, and it's probably for a good reason, like, oh, shark, bad, get out of the water. Spider, poisonous, stay away from it, right? And but other fears, like talking to people, afraid to fail, things like that, this is nurtured side. This is where you are taught these things. And you have to overcome your teaching. You have to understand that a teacher, they're teaching you what they know. And at best, they're teaching you the stuff that's in a book. They're not even ad-libbing or putting their spin on it, right? At worst, they're putting their spin on it and barely teaching you out of a book. Unless that, there's some competent teachers out there, I'll give you that. And they do want the best. And I find these mostly in teachers that teach the sciences. Overcome your teaching, though. You have to be brave enough to find out information for yourself. Ask questions. Ask that why. Why? We get, there's so many memes about parents always getting frustrated with the kids by always asking why. They're always asking why. That's great. That means the kid has curiosity. You have to inspire that curiosity. The more curious you are, the more you're going to learn about things, and the more your fear goes away. The less fear that you have, the more you're going to be a little bit more mature on things. You're going to see things from a different point of view. And you're going to look at things, you're going to get to be a grumpy ass guy like me and try to figure out why are people so scared of minuscule things. Well, I can't drive through that neighborhood. There's a lot of black people in it. I'm like, yeah, so, what do they do? They live in a house just like we live in a house, Is that a high crime neighborhood? No, it's not. It's just a couple blocks over. And I made a mature decision to not live in an area that has higher crime. So your irrational fear of them is taught to you. And goes for black kids in white neighborhoods, Hispanic kids. And, I'm not talking about the places that have notoriety, Compton, or whatever. No. Or Wellston in St. Louis. That's where I lived for a few years when I was younger, back in the 80s. That's where I learned to fight. But even kids there, my age, I was like 10 years old, kids hated whites. I was probably the only white kid in that they'd ever seen. They hated me for some reason. That's a taught thing, right? And it's an unfortunate thing, that anybody teaches their kids to hate other people based on silly attributes like how you were born, right? You don't have control over that. And you have to have the maturity to maybe sit down with these people that hate you and talk to them. And maybe convince them through your manners and through your maturity to listen to you, right? Now, if they're screaming at you like, just screaming at you, and they just want to be, feel good about screaming at you, those are the immature people, the ones that just want to be heard because they have no purpose in life. They don't have any skills in life. They don't know what to do with themselves, so they feel like they can finally be important by being in a herd of people screaming at each other and screaming at the world. When I see all of this happen, the riots that we're having right now in 2020, I see nothing but a lot of immaturity. Lots of immaturity. And it's systemic, especially when parents are sponsoring their kids to go out there and do this. None of those kids out there have a job. And when I'm talking about kids, I'm talking about sub 30, right? None of them have a job, because if they did, it'd probably be more important for them to take care of themselves. But they're not taking care of themselves. They don't know how to take care of themselves. They're being state sponsored by their parents to be very just immature on live TV, and they broadcast it they stream it for the world to see. Look at how immature I am. Look at me not able to have a conversation. Look at me not able to take care of myself because mom or dad or your grandparents have to take care of me. And they do a great job. I never have a need or a want. Those kids have also never failed. That's why when you see the videos of them being arrested by the police, they scream in terror and throw huge fits like 3-year-olds. Because that's not as mature as they are as 3-year-olds. And that's bad parenting. I mean, it's too late now. It's too late for the parents to do anything about that now. You can't come back after you raise your kid and say, oh, by the way, I fucked it all up and we have to redo it. Now, the parents don't realize, because the parents are immature. The parents don't reflect on how they were trying to raise their kids. They just threw money at them, threw food at them, threw an Xbox at them, and hope for the best. Oh, and then they sent them to public education school, which is just brainwashing to be worthless, completely worthless. So, in state, in order to be a mature person, you have to undo your teachings, right? And hopefully you do have a mature parent teaching you these things, to be curious and ask questions, and to be there to figure things out and so forth, and to be there when you fail. Hopefully you have this, because you're at home. When you're at home growing up, that is where you're supposed to learn to fail. You're supposed to learn to fall off your bike, smash a finger building something, or stub a toe, or get sunburned, or a wide variety of maladies. You're supposed to learn this at home, so you have a safe area to learn to fail. So as you extend out further and further and further, the harder you push in life, the biggest failures can turn out to be the biggest successes. But you have to learn to fail. You have to learn to not be scared to fall. And if you haven't been taught this at home, you need to learn it now. You need to learn it now. You need to learn to self-reflect on yourself and like, how can I be better tomorrow than the man I was today? All right, that should be the question you ask every day. How am I going to be better tomorrow than I was today? And then if you have to write it down, write it down. Say, tomorrow I'm going to do this better than I did today. It doesn't matter how big or small it is. It doesn't matter. Because then you practice that. Then you practice being better than you were yesterday. And then it becomes a life habit. You go forward in life. The business leaders out there, the people that make these billion-dollar companies that are the demons, are the people that also get up in the morning and are like, how can I do things better than I did yesterday? And I'm not going to say that business leaders are always very mature themselves. I've seen some very immature actions between businesses. However, without the drive and the purpose to do something, and the willingness to find out that you did something wrong and correct it, you'll never go forward. So, all right, I'm going to cut this here, and now I'm going to go ahead and get to work.